It's time.
Yes.
Oh, sister, it's time you
That's
return. Don't stop.
Where you at? Where you at?
Don't stop.
Where you at? Where you at?
Don't stop.
What?
Don't stop.
What?
Don't stop.
Where you at? Where you at?
Salute Nick family and NBA Nation. Today we are doing a joint Just Nicking It audio podcast and live stream on YouTube. This is a pop-up show. You know, news broke yesterday. News broke yesterday that the Knicks traded Obi Toppin to the Indiana Pacers for 2 second-round picks. They also used their non-taxpayers mid-level exception to sign Donte DiVincenzo. We'll talk about that. I know the panel has a lot to say. I'm just going to get it out of the way when it comes to Obi Toppin. It's not uncommon, and I've said this before, to have a vet or a young vet and then a young player that a team has to make a decision on, right? Sometimes they'll choose the vet and the young vet over the young player, like the Knicks did with Julius Randle over Obi Toppin. But there have been times in NBA history where they'll choose the young guy over the vet/young vet, like Denver did with the Joker over Nurkic. It does happen. I think Obi Toppin was just caught up in a numbers game. I don't think the Knicks expected Julius Randle to pop the way he did. But once he did, they had a decision to make. And in my opinion, I think they made the right decision choosing Julius Randle over Obi Toppin. Now, Julius Randle, two-time All-Star, two-time All-NBA player, perfect? No. Still questions about whether or not he can be that player in the playoffs. But right now, he's better for the Knicks for where the Knicks are right now in their roster construction. I think if you choose Obi Toppin over Julius Randle, there's other moves you have to make because you are now giving up a go-to player for a player who you need to create for. So now you have to ask yourself, who is that other go-to player besides Jalen Brunson? So I think it would have been a bit tougher in terms of roster construction to trade Julius Randle and keep Obi Toppin. That's just my opinion. I know the panel is going to have something to say about that. The chat is going to have something to say about that. Regardless of whether you thought it was the right choice or not, there's something to be said about the front office holding on to Obi as long as they did and only getting back 2 second-round draft picks. How much of that was the situation getting really tenuous with Obi Toppin and Coach Thibodeau and just feeling like it's just untenable, like we just cannot bring him back under these circumstances. We're just going to get the best we can get. And how much of it was them just not having the foresight to see that this is never going to work. At some point, you're going to move him when is the best, when is the best time. We'll talk about that. Also, Divincenzo, who the Knicks signed as if we needed another shooting guard. We got Grimes, we got IQ, we have Josh Hart, all around the same height, though not the same skill set. It still seems like a duplication for me as far as Quick and Grimes is concerned. Will he start next season? A lot to talk about. Let me bring in the panel. We got Ajay, resident panelist, Jeff Clafter, resident panelist, and guest delusional Knick fan who's joining us after a long hiatus. How you fellas doing?
Awesome.
Good morning. Good morning. Oh, good afternoon, I should say. Good afternoon, Queens. Salute, Jeff, Delusional, and of course the chat, Knicks Nation.
Nah, feeling good to be back.
Right.
Ready to get into it.
Yeah. I was remiss. I do want to shout out Simeon Russell for Nothing But Knicks for the first annual NBK cookout in Coxsackie, New York last night. Beautiful event. Beautiful venue. Got an opportunity to chomp it up with Knick fans. Carlton, Dio and his wife was there. John from Ron and John for Still, the missing half of Still Knick fans was there yesterday. And obviously Sam, Tony Crow, If I missed anybody, my apologies, but it was a great event. Let's just hop into it. Your thoughts on the Obi Toppin trade, whatever angle you want to take.
I guess I'll hop in it since I missed a couple episodes. Finally, it was a sigh of relief. More so, I'm excited for Obi to get that opportunity. I wish it would have been here with the Knicks. Just the dynamic athleticism that he brings to the court, the energy that he brings. I said it on my show a couple days ago that second unit is not going to have that much energy. I feel only from Quick and that excitement. And that fast pace, that's what Opie brought. It wasn't a bring it up in the ISO game that he had. It was just more of an unpredicted, offense. Sometimes him occasionally cutting, sometimes him spotting up, getting those dunks, those excitement that he brought to the Garden. That's going to be needed. That also brought fans in the seats as well. And then, of course, is the situation that he had with Tibbs, that once we heard that audio come out, we knew, like, yeah, it's definitely time for Opie to kind of move on, because that wasn't the perfect mix. Even from that first draft, I'm like, he's not a Tibbs type player, but let's see what transpires. And, of course, Julius had those 2 phenomenal years out of the 3 where we thought, like, wow, where would Opie fit into this scenario? He barely got any minutes, from every year. It's either decreased or it just went up and down as far as his minutes. But we saw the production when Julius were out. That's where the highlights came for me. Was like, yo, Opie can give you 18 and 8 without being set up in the offense. So that's easy bucket. So I'm thinking future-wise, where you go out and get that small forward that's ball dominant, Opie can fit right into that. Like what Queen said, if you keep Opie, there has to be another plan in line. And that's what we all thought, that, Julius would be the key pieces to bring in a dominant small forward or a dominant shooting guard that can go get the buckets. That's better. And Opie can just slide right in as that player that you don't have to draw plays for, and he can still give you 18 and 8. But that didn't transpire.
You don't have to draw plays
with 2 second round picks.
Yeah. Was it for you? It sounds like for you, it was more the choosing Randall over Obi than it was just getting 2 second round picks, or was it both?
It's more so the 2 second round picks. I would have been fine with a heavily protected 2028 or something, at least give me a first. But the fact that I figured it was one of those situations where the Knicks was like, hey, this is the scenario that where you can go and flourish. This is all we can get. We'll make that trade for you. We'll do that for you. As far as Julius, look, as much as I put hate on Julius, he is a proven ISO player in the league. All NBA twice, All-Star twice. I don't even think, has Melo made All NBA with the Knicks twice? I don't even know if Melo even did that. So it's one of those situations where I'm happy we got him. It's the scenario that we're placed with, and him and Brunson kind of fit well. We'll see what's the end goal. That's my thing. The Knicks are playing chess now. We don't know the end goal, but obviously they know what the end goal is.
That's a good point. Are they making moves to set up other moves, or is this the move? We shall see. Anybody else?
Jeff?
When it first came down, I was really disappointed. I was like, man, we got 2 second round picks for this guy. That's all that we could get for him. And then, I think it's Bill Parcells that said, you are what your record says you are. And I think sometimes you are the player that what you can get back for. You know what I mean? That's whatever your value is what you can receive back in a trade. We put valuations on these players based on what we think they can be, what we hope they can be, what we've seen. But you know what? These organizations have all the same tape that we've seen, and the market for Obi Toppin just wasn't that big. I understand why they did it. I was disappointed in the return, but I just, I was against the Obi Toppin choice when we made it because I was worried about that very thing. I was like, well, your best player is a power forward. Why are you drafting that same position? One of them's going to have to go. This was always coming to that resolution, and we had hoped that Obi would ball out to the point where it became obvious that the solution would be him. Turned out to be Randall was the one who balled out and took that position. Whether we like it or not, Randall was the one who outplayed Toppin, and Toppin could never he doesn't have the game and the skill set to supplant him. I don't think Obi Toppin's ever going to be an all NBA player. And so, given the choice between the two, I that's what you end up with. If you want to make the argument that it's poor asset management on the part of the Knicks, I agree with you 100%. But in terms of what is best for the Knicks moving forward, I think it makes sense because Obi doesn't give you any versatility at that spot. And if you're not going to bring versatility, you have to bring dominance in an aspect of the game. And Obi doesn't have any dominance in any aspect of his game. It's very fast. He works in transition well, but we're a half-court team. So how does that translate to this team building a championship? And I'm not sure if I have a good answer for that, and I don't think the Knicks had a good answer for that either. And I think that when you subtract out Obi and you add DiVincenzo gives you more versatility. He can guard 1 through 3, so you have multiple positions where you can place him at. You can question the wisdom of an RJ or a Josh Hart at the 4, but it looks like unless we make another move, that's what's happening. I'm not necessarily thrilled about that, but we'll talk about that more later. But so I think he doesn't have any of that. He's not like Mitchell Robinson, where he's a defensive anchor and a block shot extraordinaire. He doesn't rebound particularly well for his position. That's something that Julius Randle does. So I think when you add all that in, sad as it is to say, Obi's a good dude, but it was just his time to go somewhere else. And I'd say I wish him the best, but he's a Pacer, so I don't really want him to succeed.
Okay. All right. Ajay.
All right. Queen, first of all, we on a Sunday afternoon, let's hit the like button, man. We getting here together. Right. Delusional Knicks fan haven't been here in a hot minute. He's back here, with the heat. Let's hit the like button for us in here. Just support the channel. Hit that like button. So Obi, you guys were disappointed. I guess you're okay with it. I am absolutely completely disappointed with what we got for Obi Toppin. So it was a bittersweet move because I'm happy. It was the right move, right? And we talked about that. Right. I'm happy for Obi. He's going to get the opportunity to be an NBA player and not play behind somebody like Julius Randle. He's going to have the opportunity. Hopefully he makes the best of it because we don't know that he's gonna, right? But, we drafted him. We love Obi and we just want the best for him. So we hope he makes the best of that opportunity over there in Indiana, right? It's also good for the Knicks because I don't know. I don't think any one of you guys mentioned Isaiah Roby that they already. Isaiah Roby is going to be Obi Toppin's replacement as the backup for Julius Randle. So in the few minutes that Obi Toppins would be getting, we're probably going to have the same production. If, God forbid, Julius Randle goes down, he has to start. That's a different story. But in the limited 10, 12 minutes, we're probably going to get the same thing. And when I say the same production, he doesn't have the 3-point shot in his arsenal, but when the net, it's going to be probably the same thing, net positive. He's a better defender. He's a better rebounder. There's more activity than Obi Toppin. So it's probably going to be the same thing. So there's no drop there. So it's good for the Knicks overall. But 2 second-round picks, this is horrible asset management, and this is not the first time we've done this, right? We let Frank Ntilikina walk for nothing. We trade Kevin Knox. We paid we actually paid one first round pick for Kevin Knox. As heavily protected as it was a first round pick, right? So we paid to take Kevin Knox off our hands. We got Cam Reddish. Then we had to pay our own first round pick just to get rid of Cam Reddish. I mean, we're doing a terrible job at managing those assets. Okay, we're piling a whole bunch of heavily protected first round. I don't know how the league value them, and obviously not much, because we're stuck with them. We can't do anything with these first round picks. And then we got like a million second round picks that we're not using. We have players flying across the league for second round picks, and we still sitting on with holding on to ours. You know, let's get rid of some of them. You know, use them in a trade. Get a player that you can flip, that you can do something. Let's do some maneuvering here. We're just piling on second round picks all over the place. What are we gonna do with them? I mean, this is terrible asset management right now. And I'm totally disappointed that all we got for Obi it's 2 second round picks. And also, we did get the trade exception, which we can only use in a trade, guys. We cannot use that to sign up another free agent. We can only use that towards a trade. Okay. But you know, yesterday there were a couple of shows, and you know, of course we listen to all the podcasts, and they call this a salary dump. I mean, Obi Toppin didn't make that much money. A salary dump, I want to see Evan Fournier go out. Okay, I'm pretty sure they're working on something to get. I mean, it would be insane for Evan Fournier to still be here, you know, come training camp. So I don't think that's going to happen. That's the kind of salary dump I want to see, something that'll make a difference. Okay, so you know, we're in the middle of all these negotiations. We don't know what's going to happen, what's coming. But as I've always said, there's a lot of basketball minds in that front office. I'm pretty sure they're going to come up with something creative, something that's going to be beneficial to the team. So we're waiting, and we want to see what's going to happen. You know, that's the life of a Knicks fan, right? We have to wait, we have to suffer, and they have to drag it and you know, make it as painful as possible for us. So let's just wait and see what's happening, what they're going to do. You know, but I like that they traded Obi to another team. He's gonna have a better opportunity than with Tom Thibodeau. But I just hate that we're only able to get 2 second round picks for him. So
Yeah, let me ask the panel a question, and I get it. I agree. The asset management was more of an issue, I think, than anything else. But do you think he was treated unfairly by Thibodeau and the Knicks? Or to word it another way, do you think he got a fair shot? Do you think there was more opportunity to be had for Obi Toppin? Or do you think it was just he was behind Randall? Your thoughts on that?
Nah, let me jump in this one. So it's only certain scenarios that stuck out to me where it's just like, yo, why he couldn't play more. When Julius got hurt, Tibbs didn't play him in certain minutes of the game, and I'm like, he started, let him finish the game. He had a good game against our Miami series, let him finish that, but he took him out, went more so for the defensive end, which is understandable for Tibbs, and we lost. Then there's other scenarios of where, you know, he could have fit in, played a little bit more minutes, and for that instance, it's like, why? Give us a legit reason. That's all we're asking. You know, you're going with your analytics saying, oh, you know, Julius and Opie can't play together. Cool. We got that when you spoke about that. You see it, we didn't see it too much. It don't fit good. I get that. But during that playoff time where he had that outburst, is the reason why he had that outburst. Yo, play me. I'm playing good. We were in the game. You took me out. Like, what's the issue? So I think later on it got to be with something with Hibbs and Tibbs. But before that, I figured, hey, you're just playing behind an all NBA player. This thing happened, so it occurred. So it's a 50-50 scenario. It's weird because even with the Cam situation, you know, I'm going always down that Cam thing. Yes, Cam is not playing well to his best ability, but do I think he got a fair role and a fair shot to a certain extent? Probably not, because we knew Tibbs didn't want him there from the beginning. So you're already going to be on the back burner from just that instant. You have to be phenomenal for you to get on Tibbs' radar if you weren't originally on his radar. So with that scenario, you're playing behind an all NBA player, you're not going to get that much minutes. But there were certain scenarios where it's just like, yo, he could have came in, played a little bit more minutes, shooting phenomenal, shooting better than Julius from every statistical category, shooting wise. Not to say he could create like Julius, not to say he could pass like Julius or play defense better than Julius, but just the shooting aspect of when we needed shooting. That's when I figured we could have used Opie a little bit more.
Okay. All right.
Now talk to me, Queen. You had something there.
No, it's okay. I think for me, this show is for you guys and this show is for the chat. It's just not a big deal for me. I think, like I said, it happens all the time. The Knicks chose Julius Randle. I do think it was the right choice. I do think,
yes,
Obi, hopefully he'll get that opportunity in Indiana. But I do want to highlight something. Like I said, we're doing a joint audio podcast and live stream on YouTube. But someone said something, Bodega Wi-Fi, Obi only had one player to beat in practice. Now he has 6 ahead of him in Indiana. Rick Carlisle is an old school coach just like Thibodeau. Carlisle hated DSJ and Harrison Barnes' game. I think there is something to that. I think, when we think about Obi Toppin in Indiana, we're just thinking about him and Halliburton, but he has to prove himself to Carlisle in order to get on the floor for him to have that opportunity with Halliburton. And, we shall see. I know there's other power forwards there. I looked at the roster. I think he has a good shot. Isaiah Jackson, since he's been there, has been in and out of the lineup. They started Jalen Smith last year. He didn't make it to the end of the season as the starter. There's someone else there as well at power forward. So I think he's going to have, a really good shot. But Carlisle being an old school type coach, yeah, that's going to have a lot to do with it as well. But I will say this for Obi Toppin, he really turned it around from his his rookie season to now. I was like, I can't believe he was the 8th pick when I saw him play as a rookie. And, he was able to turn it around, work on his skills. You saw some flashes with him putting the ball on the floor. That playoff game when Julius Randle wasn't out, for me, it means a lot when guys step into big spots and produce. And that may not be the same for everyone, but for me, it is. And for him to come into that game and get 18 points and 8 rebounds, that said a lot about him, especially the 8 rebounds. For him to say to himself, Randle is not here. They're going to need me on the boards, and to make that concerted effort and to actually make it happen, that said a lot about Obi Toppin. So I really do hope he gets that opportunity, down the line. But I still feel like, the Knicks made the right choice, and I don't think he was misused. I do hear, people say, not necessarily you, delusional Knicks fan, but when Randle is having a bad night, why are you putting him back in? I just think when you have an established veteran, even though he's a young vet like that, you don't play around with his rotation minutes. Well, if you're hot, you get to stay in. But if you're not hot, we're going to put this other guy. It just doesn't work like that. I think when you're that guy on your team, you earn the right to have bad shooting nights. You earn the right to work through bad shooting games or quarters. And a coach is going to always think, just because he didn't shoot well, I don't know, in the first half, doesn't mean he won't in the third quarter or in the second half. They're going to always get that benefit of a doubt. And you can even say it's unfair to have them in a situation where, if anytime you're not on, we're putting this guy in. It just doesn't work that way, particularly in the NBA. So I don't think he was used unfairly. I mean, I don't think he was treated unfairly. I don't think he was, I don't think there was other minutes to be had. I didn't like the pairing of Obi Toppin and Julius Randle. So I don't think he's a 5. I don't think he's a 3. I know there's many in the chat who disagree with me, who do think he has the ball skills to play the 3 position. I don't. So I don't think he was mismanaged at all. Actually, now, was there a game or two, where I was wondering, like, Randall is really off. Like, I don't think this should be an every game thing, but like he's really off. Maybe it would have been okay to kind of put Obi back in the game, but you can't really blame a coach for going down with their best player game in and game. And play. He comes from that Pat Riley school of thought. That's what they do. They ride their horses. They go down with John Starks was 2 for 18, because Jeff Van Gundy, Pat Riley, that's how they work. They go down with their with their best players, like it or not. And then the last thing I'll say, and then I'll pass the mic, is all coaches have a philosophy. All coaches have a way they like to play. All coaches have their preferred players. All coaches do. And sometimes you don't understand why James Wiseman was moved out of Golden State. Why was Bones Highland moved out of Denver? These are talented guys. All coaches have their types of players, and they have them in-house, and they're able to see them game in and game out, day in and day out, and they form an opinion that this is not their type of guy. And it doesn't matter about the talent. It's just not my type, just not my type of guy. Okay, Ajay, anybody else want to say something as far as opinion about whether Obi Toppin was treated unfairly by Tibbs or the organization? Yes.
Before we go to, I want to a little pushback. I know
Yes.
you and I have had that conversation about coaches have their guys. You got to only bring Tibbs guys here. Listen, I don't buy that. All right, the coach, you're supposed to be a basketball mind, right? The front office hires you. They give you the players. They listen, figure out how to make this work. Okay. So what happens in 2 years if they don't renew Tibbs, right? The next coach. So now you have to completely change the roster and bring his players in. Doesn't work. I don't think it works that way. Okay.
In the NBA, it does.
No, I don't think it does.
Okay.
Because, when you took Larry Brown and you put him in Detroit and he won with that team, what do you think? Those are Larry Brown guys? No. They gave Larry Brown a bunch of guys. They said, listen, figure this out. Okay, figure it out. Let's win with this. You got the ingredients. Make a nice, tasty dish out of this. Okay, the front office. Then it's easy to be a coach. Then, no. The challenge of a coach is to get what you're given, whether it's good or bad. You have guys that can shoot. You had Ben Wallace there who couldn't do anything offensively. Generally, right? They said, Larry Brown, figure out how to make this guy become a winner. That's the job of a coach. That's the challenge. The coach is a manager. In other sports, they call those managers, like soccer, baseball. Those you have to manage your roster, not get the easy roster, the players you think are right. It's got to be. It can't just be that. It's got to be a combination of both. Like I said, when Tibbs gone, so now we have to change the whole roster and bring that next coach. We have to trade everybody out because those were Tibbs guys. Tibbs is gone. So is his coaching staff, and so are his players. I disagree with that line of thinking. I don't think that's great.
We can agree to disagree, but it's rare that you're going to find a coach who wants to get rid of everyone on the roster that they inherited, right? But look at what's happening.
Because financially you can. But by that logic, if you could just flip everybody over, when Phil Jackson came to Chicago, those weren't his guys. They're like, Phil, listen, the other coach, he can't get the best out of this guy. Come over here, take this group, and get the best out of him. Okay. Same thing. As a matter of fact, Thibodeau, when he came in here, right, he took literally the same players from the previous season. And he got so much more out of them. Okay, that's the job of a coach. You got to take what you're given. Of course, the front office is going to check with the coach because the coach is a brilliant basketball mind. That's why they coaches. That's why they make that much money, right? Because they know basketball. But you got to take what you're given and get the best out of that guy. You got to get the best out of that crew.
I listen. If the players are already there, fine. I just still feel that you got to give the coach his type of players. That's just what I believe. But I hear what you're saying. Basically, what you're saying is I could just give you anybody. You like to run this style of play, but I'm gonna give you. You like to run a half court, slow pace type game, but I'm gonna bring in runners and you work it out. I don't think it works like that. I think there.
You're
I
a
don't
coach.
think.
You gotta be flexible.
I don't think. To me, I just don't think it works like that in the NBA. Now, obviously, there's some players you are stuck with because, like you said, the roster, the salary, you can't switch everybody out. But when you hire a coach, the coach is telling you their philosophy. These are conversations you're having when you hire a coach. And you talk about the roster. That's part of the conversation. And I'm sure the conversation is not, listen, we're bringing you here and you have no control over this roster. We're going to bring in our players who we think fits the organization, and we want you to figure something out. It just doesn't work that way. And I get it. There's some players, again, already on the roster, you do have to figure it out. We can't move them. We don't want to move them, whatever it is, figure it out. But these are the conversations you have before you hire the coach. If a coach looks at the roster and say, look, I understand you brought in these guys. These guys are on the roster. These are not my type of guys. Don't hire that coach. But it can't be, oh, yeah, you just going to be here to cook the meal. You have no control over the ingredients. Now, and I'm sure that there's some sort of balance. But don't bring in Cam Reddish. If the coach is already there and they're telling you, this is not my, so now the front office is going to decide I'm going to bring him in anyway. The coach doesn't play. Whose fault is that as far as the asset is concerned? Unless you're going to force that coach to play him or fire the coach. Same thing with Obi Toppin. You're going to force the coach to play somebody. You're going to force a minute share. I just disagree. But I do think there's a balance to it. But this idea that your job, I'm going to bring in whoever I want and your job to me, I just think that's too far over to the other end. Yes, there are some players that's going to be here. You got to figure it out. But the entire roster, I think that's too much. That being said, what would you have done differently with Obi Toppin? How could you figure that out?
No, but Queen, I mean, right now, it's almost like Thibodeau's hijacked the front office. They just bring in Thibodeau guys, right? They bring in Thibodeau guys.
But who you think they should bring in? The front office guys? These guys aren't coaches. So the front office should just draft somebody and say, work it out. They're not coaches.
Well, I mean, then what's the point of a general manager? Then let's just eliminate all those guys. Have the coaches pick the players and bring in capologists and stuff like that. There has to be a balance, but it can't be we're just like going Thibodeau guys hunting all over the league and find the rough and
but what do you think Miami is doing? Everybody can't play in Miami. You think Miami is bringing in anybody? They're bringing in specific guys. San Antonio, they're bringing in specific guys for their culture. They're not just Miami too. Miami look for specific guys. Look who they drafted. There was probably better players in the draft than who they drafted, but that guy was specific for their culture. So teams do it. The point I'm trying to make is let's not act like the Knicks and Tom Thibodeau is the only one who bring in players that fit their coach's style. Let's just put it that way. Yes, there are individual differences. Yes, there are outliers. I get it. But let's not act like the Knicks and Tom Thibodeau is doing something novel that no other organization does. That's all I'm saying.
And one other thing on that, AJ, you say a Tom Thibodeau guy, but what is a Tom Thibodeau guy, okay? A Tom Thibodeau guy is a guy who plays good defense, a guy who hustles, a guy who knocks down shots. What coach doesn't want that? It's not just a Tom Thibodeau guy. I mean, we like to say that, but the guys they're bringing in are good basketball players that fit the culture and philosophy that they're wanting to do. You're trying to tell me Donte DiVincenzo is just a Tom Thibodeau guy? guess what? He was a Steve Kerr guy too. The good coaches want players who can play and fill multiple roles and are defensively active. I think all coaches want that. So is it a Tom Thibodeau guy, or is it just a good basketball player
that can rebound and play defense and do the things you need to do at that position?
Well, I mean, that's the term we use, but there's a specific, like a Deuce McBride or a Jericho Sim, listen, Deuce McBride gets minutes on Tom Thibodeau, but Evan Fournier couldn't get minutes, right? So obviously, and Evan Fournier could give you points more so than so.
He didn't get minutes this season, Ajay, but he started last season and he played pretty much every game.
Yeah, but he broke the 3-point record and so on and so forth last year. This season, he didn't get no minutes. So that's not a Tom Thibodeau guy. I mean, and I'm just using that as one example. The first example popped in my head, right?
Yeah.
He's not a guy that doesn't hustle on defense. He's just physically not capable of defending, but he can knock down the shot. So if Tom Thibodeau, given the choice between him and Deuce, he'll pick Deuce, who has not been able to knock down a shot at the NBA level, even though he's a very good scorer in the G League, but he's a hell of a defender.
But they're two separate positions, though. Maybe we could find somebody whose position is like. I don't think you would choose between those two. Like they're two separate positions.
He has, though, Tom Thibodeau. He has. There has been instances where he had he'd need a guard and put Deuce McBride instead of Evan Fournier. I mean, they're not the same position, but Tom Thibodeau has done that. I can't think of any particular game, but he has. He absolutely has done that.
So you think it was a mistake to take Evan Fournier out of the rotation?
No. I'm not. We're discussing what is a Tom Thibodeau guy and what is not a Tom Thibodeau guy. That's an example of what I'm saying. What like sometimes there's certain things you need. Like he doesn't go with what he needs. He go with what he likes, kind of thing. That's what I'm saying.
But how is that different than any other coach? And this is a point I'm trying to make. If you look at every coach does that.
Queen, listen, outside of the Knicks, nothing else exists for me.
but that'll give you perspective, though. But that will give you perspective. When you watch it, you see things happening in other leagues, the same on other teams, the same way it's happening with the Knicks. It gives you perspective that this is not unique to the Knicks organization, unique to Tom Thibodeau. This is just how it works. Delusional.
Yeah, let me kind of step in with this. So I hear what Ajay is stating. When we state a Tom Thibodeau type player, we're not excluding all the other NBA coaches and what type of players they're like. So particularly with Tibbs like individuals with high basketball IQ, who's team oriented, defense first, and then of course moving the ball on the offensive end. So when we bring in the Cam scenario, Cam was looking to get an opportunity to be out here, be, ball dominant, try to get paid, things of that nature. And then, of course, Tibbs wanted him to guard, smaller point guards and trap them early. But you saw Cam will let them get by in those high pick and rolls and things of that nature. So that's like he stated, like, nah, that's not what we want. We need a certain style of play. So then that's what kind of took him out. It's just a certain style of players that he liked. Divincenzo was perfect. He could play the 1-2-3, ball handle, shoot the 3 out of high clip. We labeled that as a Tibbs player, even though Divincenzo is probably wanted across everybody in the league. So it's not just excluding him and saying that, oh, he's a Tibbs player. There's tons of players that are Tibbs players that can go elsewhere and be other coaches' players as well. But Tibbs, like a specific rebounding, is huge. So he wants somebody that's going to box out, be able to grab that loose ball. So that's why when we got Hart, she was just instant perfection because of Hart is going to run for that additional defense. He's going to box out. He's going to be smart and understand, okay, he's shooting on that left side. Percentage of that ball actually bouncing off and going right is higher. I'm running on that right side. Things of that nature. Something that I don't think we'll see Cam or certain players or Opie kind of register at that state of mind frame. So that's why those players are a Tibbs player. Not to say that they're not anybody else's, but I get what he's saying. But on a deeper end, yeah, certain players are just not Tibbs players, and we know that from jump.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think RJ Barrett is a
No,
Tibbs player?
no,
But they're having a hard time moving him.
no.
And this is why I'm
That's
saying
a good point though too.
Yeah,
but no,
yeah,
he's not.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with that. But there's a balance, Ajay. I mean, when you first made your statement, I'm like, that sounds like a college team. Just bring them in and just work it out. I think it's a little more nuanced, in the NBA. But I could see a situation where you got the first pick and the coach is like, I don't really want a young guy here. We trying to trade that pick for an established veteran, and then I could see the organization taking a long-term view and saying, nah, I think I think we need to do that. So I do think there's some balance, but I don't think it's just we're going to bring in who we want to and you figure it out. But we agree to disagree. Nothing but love. Did we wait too long? Could we have gotten more if we traded him sooner? I mean, I do think that his game developed. So you would think if you're going to get better compensation, it would have been this year, seeing what he did in the playoffs with the 18-8, seeing what he did when Randall was out with the ankle injury, that you would have got more value now. I think earlier his game just wasn't as good basically as it is right now. But is there anyone who thinks had we traded him sooner, we would have got better value? There is something to be said for unmolded clay, right? That when you don't know a guy, you haven't seen him, you can kind of imagine what they could be, and maybe you can get more. Whereas the more you see them play, the more they fill out, the more you get a sense of who they are, and their value can actually go down. But your thoughts on whether or not we should have traded him sooner and gotten more?
I think it was a perfect time actually to trade him. Like you stated before, all those other years, he was getting his feet wet. Tibbs tried to utilize him in different ways. If he was on a different team, like a Sacramento, spacing and shooting and running, then of course you could have seen the value with him and probably gotten more. But in our, like you said, our half court offense, he wasn't shining. He had moments where he started, you showcased now, hey, I can give you buckets, mid-range jump shot threes. But this was the time to kind of move him. Just wished it was for a bigger trade. Let's say, add him in to get a superstar. That's what I thought the piece was.
Right.
Package him with someone to bring in a 5-star player. That's what I thought. But just a one-off for two draft picks was just like, I wanted something bigger. But I guess this is a move to satisfy Opie for the time being.
Well, just remember though, Delusional, we got a TPE.
Yes.
So that acts the same way. Sometimes a team would rather have a traded player exception than they would that specific player. So if that's your concern, I would say don't worry about that. That's not preventing us from making a bigger trade. And in fact, it may help a little more because you're not tied into, is this team interested in acquiring Obi Toppin? And so if that's your concern, I wouldn't be too concerned is what I would say.
Well, certain teams might want a player that can give you, because like, when Opie plays, he can give you 47% from the field goal, actually 50 from the field goal, and 6'9" athletic. So I would rather a player, even if he's on his expiring deal, just to see what he can and develop. So certain teams might want that, or they can utilize him for an asset to trade him as well as again. So it, like you stated, yes, we can utilize that, but some teams might want that player because that's a huge asset to me. I truly think he's an asset to a lot of teams in the NBA. It can even be a championship team where he can play that solid role as far as just giving you instant offense. Put Opie in Phoenix right now. Put Opie in Phoenix. They need some bench players.
Well, listen, I wonder if Indiana didn't want to go more than 2. Now, that could be, as Ajay has said multiple times, teams always, start off low. but they didn't budge off of that. We've been hearing the Indiana and 2 second-round picks for a while now. Part of it could be that they're hedging their bets as well. Part of it can be that they're not sure. He's going to be a restricted free agent. They're either going to sign him before October. I believe they have the opportunity, right? Even though he was traded, I think that goes with him. So I think they can extend him before the start of the season, or he goes to restricted free agent. If they were super sure, maybe they would have, given up more. So maybe they're not sure. And then another thing could be from the Knicks perspective is maybe they didn't want a first round pick in this year's draft because that's guaranteed salary.
No.
But
Queen,
a future first, if you could have, got it, would have helped. But they weren't willing to go there, and maybe no other team was willing to go there. So is our view of Obi Toppin that the Knicks dropped the ball? Are Knicks fans viewing Obi Toppin more than other NBA teams are?
Well, the league knew that we were going to extend Obi. So Knicks knew, okay, what can you do? You can't do anything. So you're going to have to settle. All the league exec talk. So they know, like, okay, would you willing to give up for Obi? All right, you're not going to do that. We're going to hold them out, give them 2 first rounds. We're not going to give them as much. And let's force the Knicks' hands. Everyone thinks that the Knicks is a typical Knicks and they're going to oversell. So that's what the league was kind of waiting on to see. And, Nick, they had to force their hand and had to settle.
But why didn't another team, just like when Cleveland heard what the Knicks was doing with Donovan Mitchell, oh, you know what? I think we can do better than that. When they heard that Indiana was going with 2 second first, why didn't another NBA team come in and say, oh, we can do better than that? We'll give them a first, a late first, or a future first, right? And maybe those conversations were had, and Toppin wanted to go to Indiana. Maybe they thought that would be a good fit for him. Maybe they did him a solid. It could be that too. I mean, we don't know. Certain things will come out later. Let me just read this from Still Knick fans. Ron, appreciate you. Missed you yesterday. I think if we would have traded him last year, Steph, and to the question of getting more value, the promise of him was higher last year. Indiana was interested last year as well. The promise of him. That's the word I was looking for. Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, because they did draft a power forward this year. So if they would have gotten Obi last year, they definitely would have went a different direction and probably gave up a little bit more.
Yeah. We'll see. We will see. I have, and I said this on, I don't know if it was my show or Freezy's show. I don't have a lot of confidence in the Knicks when it comes to the draft, but I have a lot of confidence in the Knicks when it comes to assessing their players in-house. People get on the Knicks for not drafting, not signing their own pick. And I don't know how many years until it was, I think, RJ Barrett, their first round pick. And to me, that's a testament to them not wanting to double down on their mistakes, because they had that player in-house and they saw him game in and game out. And so we're not going to double down and sign him just to sign him. We're going to let him go. And I don't think they made any mistakes in any of the players that they let go, that they didn't sign to a second contract. I will say, though, that they do have a history of holding on to players a bit longer. Ntilikina, I thought, had they traded him a little earlier, they might have been able to get something for him. They just allowed the contract to run out. Knox, I think we did get something.
Cam Reddish.
Okay, we just flipped.
But we had to give up a first round pick for that. It was heavily protected, but
we had to give up, for Cam Reddish. So I just think there were times when we just hold a bit too long. That I think we, had we got off a bit sooner, we could have gotten something or something more. But they haven't made a lot of mistakes after the draft in terms of letting players go. Cam Reddish. Did you think about the time we spent on Frank Ntilikina? Less time, though, but we spent some time talking about Naj. I'm talking about the fan base and just how divided we were. Cam Reddish, that was a huge thing. Portland didn't re-sign him. He signed on the minimum with the Lakers. So I think at some point we have to start giving the front office some credit once the player gets in the building, in terms of the decisions that they make to move off of a player.
But the credit comes with the criticism, because Obi, you give him credit for moving Obi, right? Because they're not going to use Obi, obviously. Give him a chance to go flourish somewhere else and give us a chance to use that roster spot for somebody who's going to help the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the blame is, why did you draft him? And why did you hold on to him for all these years? I mean, something's got to give.
Well, no, but I agree. We're talking about not drafting well and asset management. Yes, I agree.
We didn't know about Jules. Don't forget, that's their first year in. They didn't know what Jules. Remember, Jules was not shooting how he was shooting before that season. So I totally understand that scenario. It's just the situation where it's like, look, they was going to bring in Opie as the guy. They wasn't sure what Julius can do. Julius came in that training camp and just blown Tibbs away. And that's just how that dice rolled with that. I truly believe if Julius played the same way the year before, Opie would have been here and Julius would have been out. That just would have been the scenario. But Julius gotten better.
Right. And had Julius popped the year before, we would have gotten Halliburton. We would not have drafted Obi Toppin.
One other thing about trade valuations can be tricky, but I consider Josh Hart to be a better player than Obi Toppin. And Josh Hart got traded for one protected first rounder. So if you say that Hart, what ended up being the 23rd pick?
Yes.
So if Josh Hart went for the 23rd pick, then Obi Toppin's probably not going to net you a first rounder just with the market what it is. And I realize that, we use the 8th pick on him, but that's a sunk cost at this point. His market value is what you can get for him, and a couple second round picks looks like for a player who has currently produced what he has, not what we think he's capable of, because he may explode and the Knicks have egg on their face and all that stuff. That can be true, but right now he's a guy who's averaged 7 points, 3 rebounds, and an assist per game over the course of his career.
Jeff, give me the minutes, Jeff. Give me the minutes per game. Give me the minutes per game.
15.7.
All right, now give me the minutes per game from the player you stated that is better than Hart. Hart played way more minutes in the league than Obi. Way more minutes. You can't say he's a better player due to what's occurring. Yes, he averaged 17 points in one season because he was a starter, getting starter minutes. Right? If you give me 30 minutes right now in the NBA, I'll put up more than 7 points because I'm getting the minutes. It's not because I'm better or whatever the case is. You're getting the minutes.
I don't even think it's. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Queen.
No. Finish.
I just think it's you're giving the minutes. He's giving the minutes. Yes, he's a better defender. You defend in the league, you're guaranteed playing on the court. Like if we said, if Julius was not here and we had Opie starting at the power forward, we would not be having this conversation because he's getting the minutes, giving you clearly better shooting percentage than Julius. His numbers would be either 18, 20. I guarantee you he can average 20 points per game if you give him 30 minutes. It's just a minutes issue. You can't sit there and say that person is better than this individual when they were not giving the minute scenario.
The same opportunity.
This is what I will say, though. You got to look at skill set also. And you got to look at sample size. And it's easy for us to extrapolate, he's shooting 50%, in 15 minutes. He's going to shoot that same 50% if given more volume and more minutes. That's not always the case. Sometimes with more volume, the percentage.
But we saw it, though, when he got those 30 minutes per game. He still was efficient.
But it was how many games in his career? About 15.
Yeah, about 15.
That's the point. 15, that's the point. I'm not trying to take anything away from Obi Toppin. I think it's still to be determined. Some players, when they get more opportunity, more minutes, more games started, games played, they flourish. Other guys get exposed. It remains to be seen which one it will be for Obi. I think a lot of us believe he will flourish. and some of us believe he will get exposed. We shall see. We shall see. I think for a lot of us, we have these arguments until they go to another team, and then that other team doesn't play them, and then we're like, oh, okay. So we will see. I think though that Obi Toppin will do better than Knox and Ntilikina. I do believe that, but we shall see. Let me ask this last question before we segue. Where do we go for the backup power forward minutes? Are we bringing in a veteran power forward, somebody that's only going to play 12, 14 minutes a game? Because that's all that's pretty much available. Are we using Jericho Sims as a backup power forward? Are we going to use Josh Hart or RJ Barrett as a small ball power forward? Your thoughts on where you think the Knicks go?
We already have the backup power forward. We have Isaiah Roby. Isaiah Roby is going to be playing minutes at power forward. You got to remember, Julius Randle, like Thibodeau will call him a workhorse. He doesn't leave a lot of minutes on the floor. So Isaiah Roby is probably going to give you the same. So with the limited minutes that Obi Toppin was getting, he's probably going to give you the same output. I think I just mentioned that too. If he has to start for Julius Randle, we're in trouble. But if he just, going to give you 10 minutes or whatever, listen, you're going to get the same kind of production, probably more in terms of rebounding, better defense and stuff like that. Right. But we already, and like you said, they could use other guys and spot, if they have to, they could throw Jericho Sims in there. Or, if you don't need too much scoring, if you need a big body in there just to grab rebounds and play better defense, you could throw him in there. Even Isaiah Hartenstein, you could do that. Or, like you mentioned, Josh Hart. So it depends. Hopefully, Tom Thibodeau will be flexible enough to be able to juggle all these things. We know he's not super great at doing that, but he does have the elements to fill in the backup minutes that Julius Randle won't be playing. So I don't think we need, the problem we have right now is the wing. We need a long wing. We going with these short wings all over the place, man. We need like somebody who's got length out there. I don't think, right. So the power forward position, I don't think is a problem. If they bring somebody in, I'd be surprised if it's a power forward. So
Okay. I mean, we're gonna be super small in that.
We are super small
in that. Well, super small in that. In that second unit.
I don't.
If there aren't any changes. Say that again.
I don't think Roby's getting any minutes. Tibbs likes his 9-man rotation. I think he's perfectly comfortable with small or not small. I think he's perfectly comfortable with RJ at the 4 or Hart at the 4, and he gets to extend more minutes to those guys and gives him a way to play quickly more. It gives him a way to play Grimes more because you can have all those guys out on the floor together, and it's against second units. So I don't think he's going to be overly concerned about that. I think he's going to want to have rebounding out on the floor, and Josh Hart is an excellent rebounder. So and Tibbs told us what he thinks about playing Josh Hart at the 4.
Yes,
he said, I'm comfortable with that. He was asked, what do you think? We can even put RJ at the 4. He actually said that. So I'm going to go with what the coach said on this one. Whether you agree with that or not is a different story. I don't see him bringing anybody in unless, with the exception, if it's a trade for a superstar that plays the 3 and the 4. But in that case, RJ maybe quickly, some of those other pieces maybe moving out the door to acquire that anyway. But I kind of feel like the roster is going to stay pretty much the way it is for this season, like it or not. And I'm not saying that I like it, but I think we made our moves, and I think that they're going to run out there with a small ball lineup in the second unit.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I agree with Jeff that Tibbs they're going to keep the rotation as it is, as far as just spreading the minutes out with the other players. There's been times where we've seen RJ play the 4. There's times when you've seen Hart there out on the floor. You saw Sims running the 4 with Hartenstein at the 5. So you can fill in roles, fill in the minutes with those players. And I even stated before, if we're going against certain big power forwards and big centers, you can put in Hartenstein at the 4, Mitch at the 5. So it's different ways they can switch it up. So I don't think they need to run out and go and get a player. If they do, go give me Jay Crowder then. I'll take a 6'8" Jay Crowder that can play defense and space the floor and shoot threes. But I don't know if they could do that with what, like 4 million we got left.
Right. Was Jay Crowder wasn't signed yet?
No.
It wasn't?
No?
Okay.
I don't think he signed with
He went
anybody.
back to Milwaukee.
Was that his last
I thought he
year?
went back.
Wait, he went back to Milwaukee?
I think so.
Wait,
Somebody
the
check
same
that.
coach that didn't want to play him?
It was a different coach.
There's a new
Different coach.
Oh,
They have a new coach.
Oh, okay. Well, I've been away for a while.
Adrian Griffin.
Oh, that's right.
I could be mistaken on that, but I thought I heard
Yeah, I
somewhere
could be
that
mistaken. I thought I heard that too.
I don't know.
Any last words on Obi Toppin? Any last words on?
We look forward to that Indiana game. That's it.
Yeah. Now I gotta watch Pacers game, man. At least for the first couple of months.
That's it.
Yeah. So
now we know Julius' face-up game is a whole lot better. He's going to bully ball him, but let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens.
But Queen, before we pivot, man, let's hit that like button, man. Come on a Sunday afternoon. We putting up all this good content, man. Yo, let's hit the like button. Only 74 likes. There's over 200 people in the chat. Come on.
Yeah,
man.
hit the like button. That supports the channel.
Support the channel. Let's go.
Yeah. If you having trouble hitting the like button and you want to support other ways, go down to the Patreon link, $5 a month to support the channel if you want to support that way. All right, let's segue.
What happened?
All right, let's segue to Donte DiVincenzo was signed with the non-taxpayer mid-level exception by the Knicks. 6'4", 6'5", shooting guard, can also play some power forward as well. Your initial thoughts on that signing? I mean, we've talked about it before. It seemed like it's been in the works, and it finally happened. Your initial thoughts, and does he start over Grimes? Let's just get right into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Jump right in.
Jump right in.
All right. I guess I'll jump in. Training camp is going to be something to look forward to, honestly, in this season with the Knicks. Do I think DiVincenzo can beat out Grimes? 100%. I would not be shocked if DiVincenzo is the starting 2 guard. And the reason why is you're trying to expand Grimes' game. So maybe with that second unit, he can have the ball in his hand and be more, showcase some dribbling, kind of run the offense. Hopefully he could develop that in this offseason. So that gives Grimes more freedom in that second unit. That first unit, he's only, a catch and shoot type player and then constant defense. With DiVincenzo, because I was doing a lot of research on this dude, watching a lot of film and stuff. That man plays defense to where he was guarding Dame. He was guarding, not to say the whole entire game, but Dame, they had him on Durant. So certain defensive assignments down in Golden State, he were switching on, no problem, guarding uptight in multiple series. Like he's literally like him and Hart on together on the floor together, it's going to be something crazy defensively. Not to say they're going to start together, but just seeing them all on the floor. Then, of course, this was a Brunson move as far as the organization knows that, hey, these guys are teammates. They play together. They won together. He has a championship mindset, winning a chip with Milwaukee. Then, of course, winning it down in Nova. So he's a winning mentality player, plays defense, not hard-headed. He doesn't need the ball to score. And he can dribble, penetrate, he can dish, and he said it himself. Like he said, I don't really care about scoring. He's like, I make the best play on the court. So you would want that in your starting unit. to be able to switch over multiple players, knock down a shot at a 39% clip, which technically, I like to round up. That's 40. You're shooting 40 in the league. You're solid.
You're more than solid at 40.
Right. So I truly believe he's starting. He's starting next year.
Wow. Okay. All right.
I 100% agree. And I was gonna say, you said in training camp, DiVincenzo could beat Grimes out of that. I think it's the other way around. If Grimes wants to start, he has to. Right now, DiVincenzo, in Tibbs' head, he's the starter.
Wow.
So if Grimes has to start, he's got to beat him out of that spot. So the acquisition itself is great. To get that guy 4-year, $50 million is absolutely a great deal for the New York Knicks. I don't know how to get him to do that. I'm surprised other teams didn't offer him more money, or if they did, maybe he rejected because he wanted to be here. But that is excellent value for his caliber player. It's a great pickup. I have no problem with it. I just wish he was like maybe 6'6", 6'5", 6'6", but otherwise he's
6'6". He'd be making more than $12 million, probably.
But everything stays the same except he's 6'6". It would be great. It would be perfect. No, it was a great pickup. So I know Knicks Nation don't want to hear this, but right now, he's better than Quentin Grimes. He's better for the team than Quentin Grimes is. So, and just think, if we had him last year for the playoffs, we'd probably go past Miami, or at least we definitely make it to Game 7. So it's a great pickup, and right now I think he's going to be the starting shooting guard with Quentin Grimes coming off the bench.
Wow. Before I get to Jeff, and maybe I need to do more research myself, and I will do that. Is it, and Jeff, you can put this into your answer as well. Is it that you think he's about to pop? Like the Knicks have done pretty good getting Randall, before he popped, getting Brunson, before he popped. Is that what we're seeing? That this guy is, about to pop, and we're kind of getting him before he does that? Because when you look at him statistically, I see the shooting numbers, but as far as the counting stats, not super great, but that's fine. Is it just the experience that he has over Grimes, that he's been in the league longer, and that's what's the difference between him and Grimes? Is it just the experience, Jeff?
I don't know. I have to disagree with the panels. I think Grimes is going to stay in the starting unit. I think this coach and this organization loves Quentin Grimes. And I just think that DiVincenzo is going to come off the bench. That's kind of what he's done in his career. I don't think we've got a diamond in the rough here. I think we've got a guy who we know what he is. And what he is a really good basketball player, and he does all the things that Delusional outlined so perfectly. I think the scouting report from Delusional is excellent, and I agree with it. But to me, I think that he and Hart are going to play together in that second unit, along with Quickly, because that gives you 3 ball handlers when you've got Brunson off the floor, and maybe even keep RJ in with that second unit if he's still here. And I think that's a lineup where you don't have a true point guard, but you have enough guys who can fill that creation role. And even Isaiah Hartenstein with that group also, I think that fits really well together. So I honestly think that just as far as a fit goes, and what his skill set is, according to what Delusional said, and I trust his evaluation, I think he slots perfectly into that reserve role off the bench, because he fits with that unit really well. And I really like what Grimes does with that starting unit. I mean, would we like him to shoot more shots and make more shots? Obviously, yes. But in terms of volume, DiVincenzo doesn't shoot a whole lot more threes than Grimes does.
No.
I think they're kind of similar in that regard, and I think they'll start Grimes and stick with him, and then plug DiVincenzo into that bench, and kind of as an Obi replacement, if you will.
Let me ask you this, Jeff. Let me ask you this. You said that you like what Grimes does in the starting lineup. What is Grimes doing right now in the starting lineup that DiVincenzo wouldn't be able to do?
That's a good question. I don't know. Let me think about that. Okay. I'm not saying that
I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to figure, just trying to figure it out because they're kind of similar except for experience.
So, right. So they're kind of similar. And I think that so because of their similarities, it's not that one can do what the other can't, but Grimes is the incumbent starter too. So continuity is a thing, right? I mean, we saw that when Thibodeau went with Josh Hart in the starting lineup in the playoffs against Miami, that didn't work as well, even though some people would argue that Hart was playing better than Grimes. Grimes in the starting lineup, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's plus minus, I don't know what it is, that just seems to work. The role that he has, he understands it well, he fills it well, and from a continuity standpoint, I think it fits. And I guess the other thing is if DiVincenzo isn't bringing something that's extra, like above and beyond, is there really a reason to upset the apple cart as far as last year's starting lineup? And I don't think DiVincenzo brings enough to the table to say yes. I also think it doesn't really matter who starts, it's who finishes that matters. So if he decides to go with that, that's fine. I think this argument is 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. But that's a great question. You caught me off guard.
Yeah, I didn't mean to. Go ahead, Adrian.
No, I was gonna say there's one thing we're not mentioning in this comparison, right? Mm-hmm. The coach that they're playing for. If you give Tom Thibodeau DiVincenzo, who's been in the league 5-6 years, and you give him Quentin Grimes, they do almost the same thing. Guess who he's going to go with to start? It's going to be DiVincenzo. Okay? He doesn't care about Grimes' development. He doesn't care about none of that. Especially, and the chemistry, that's not a problem because, I mean, this guy, obviously he'd plug and play everywhere around the league. He fits in almost seamlessly, and I'm talking about DiVincenzo. He's played with Jalen Brunson. He's played with Josh Hart. I don't think chemistry is going to be an issue. But if you give Tom Thibodeau those two guys, he is going to be with the vet, with the guy who's closer to being the vet than the younger guy.
Can I push back on that for a second?
Sure.
Can I push back on that? So the same thing was said when we acquired Josh Hart at the trade deadline, that Josh Hart was coming in and Grimes was going to go to the bench. The only thing that took Grimes out of the starting lineup was an injury. So I don't know that that's necessarily the case. The organization loves Quentin Grimes, and Coach Thibodeau is a huge fan of Quentin Grimes. I don't think I don't. In fact, I think the evidence suggests the opposite, that they're willing to go with Grimes until they're given a reason to go elsewhere.
Jeff, I'm going to push back on the pushback. That's because Josh Hart and Quentin Grimes, DiVincenzo and Quentin Grimes are more similar players than Josh Hart and Quentin Grimes. Basketball wise, skill set, structure wise, DiVincenzo and Quentin Grimes are very close to the same player as opposed to Josh Hart. Okay, so Josh Hart would be like, let's say Julius Randle goes out, if he didn't put Obi Toppins and started Josh Hart, kind of, because in Thibodeau's head, Josh Hart is a 4. Okay, not a 2.
He said he could play him at 4. I don't know if he thinks he's a 4,
3 or 4, but it's definitely not a shooting guard in Tom Thibodeau's head. But it's more seamless. It's more of a they're more closely in terms of skill set between Donte DiVincenzo and Quentin Grimes. So that's why I think he would do that.
If it's the DiVincenzo everyone's talking about, and if it's the Grimes from last season, I would want DiVincenzo to start. I just that experience You know, he won a championship with Milwaukee, and even if he didn't play, I think he might have been injured in the
He got
playoffs.
injured. Yeah.
He was on that team. He was on the Golden State team. He's played in high leverage games. So if it is close, I would want the experience to be the difference. And he can create a little bit, and he can help Brunson bring the ball up. That was the other thing we didn't have when Brunson was in there. Now, I don't know if Grimes' role will expand next season and he'll be able to do that. He played point guard in high school. I think he's able to handle the ball, but you have somebody next to Brunson where either one of those guys can bring the ball up. And that's really what you want in a shooting guard. It shouldn't just be Brunson having to bring it up, or we got to use RJ, or we have to dip into the power forward spot and use Randall. I would like a shooting guard who can also bring the ball up and run the offense. And I think DiVincenzo, from what I've heard, can do that. So yeah,
for the most part, where Steph got hurt in Golden State, he ran the 1 as well as the 2, because obviously they had the guy they traded out to Washington. But I was watching certain games where he were pretty much the dominant ball handler, bringing it up. Then, of course, you setting it up to Draymond. But he played a big part at PG, playing PG.
Yeah. So if he can do that, that gives him the edge over. That gives him the edge over Grimes, in my opinion. But again, we're talking about the Grimes from last year, not the Grimes that's going to come into training camp, right? The Grimes that comes into training camp is going to be better.
And isn't he playing in the summer league again this year? So
is he?
I don't know. I could have sworn I saw Deuce going to be in there, maybe him. I don't know if I read that incorrectly.
Grimes has no need to be. He started. Why is he in summer league?
Get that play.
You know,
so maybe not. I was looking at last year's lineup then.
I don't even know who's going to be on the Knicks.
I don't either. I have no idea who's going to be.
The Trevor Keel show.
Don't get me started with that. Is he 6'8" now, as everybody stated?
No idea. That's what they say.
Yeah, I promised the chat that I wouldn't mention that name, but Jeff had to mention his name.
Joe D. MacGyver, aren't you supposed to put the best players on the floor? Yeah. Anything else? What do you think the front office was thinking when they targeted DiVincenzo? What do you think? I mean, none of us know for sure, but what do you think their thought process was?
Hold on, let me jump in. I like I said, the organization right now is playing chess clean. They know the checkmate obviously is to get that superstar. You know, same with what Clutch is doing with LA around LeBron. They're bringing in those clutch players to make sure LeBron get there. I believe eventually CAA is going to do the same. So they're putting in pieces that make sense. Why? Because potentially Grimes could be out of here. DiVincenzo could kind of get into that. Or you have that DiVincenzo contract and get him out of there. I truly believe we're just building building players, obviously, that can still keep us as contenders. But they're waiting for those moves to say checkmate, and we have certain players, whether it's 2024 Embiid or they saying potentially Giannis could want out of Milwaukee. They're just going to sit patiently waiting, losing certain pawns, losing certain, Bishop scenario to sit there and get that checkmate.
Okay. Efren Lopez, appreciate you. Donte is a replacement for IQ, who's about to get very expensive soon. I mean, he can play that role too. If you think about IQ is playing the backup point guard position and backup shooting guard. That's the benefit of a 9-man rotation. A lot of us want Tibbs to go to 10, but when you do that, that means minutes in that second unit are going to shrink even more. And that would be Quickly's minutes will probably shrink because he benefited the most from that 9-man rotation, being able to play the backup 1 and 2, and that pushed his minutes up to almost 30. Now you bring in somebody to back up Brunson in that another 12, 14 minutes, because he plays a lot as well, maybe 16. And IQ is backing up strictly at the 2 position. Now you got a minute share. So that's what happens when you go to the 10-man rotation. But any thoughts on, him being brought in as a Quickly replacement? Down the line, meaning Quickly not being, Quickly perhaps being traded because he's about to get expensive.
I'm trying not to think about that, Queen. I think
okay.
I'm being delusional on the aspect of us losing Opie and Quick in a short amount of time period. I don't want to think about that just yet. So I'm gonna pass that to the panel.
I haven't thought about it, but that's not impossible. I don't know.
If they're thinking ahead, right? If they're thinking ahead.
Or if they think, I mean, right now, even this off season, they're not done. I mean, I'd hate to think that this is all they're doing. So they're probably gonna do something. Maybe Quickly be the next domino to fall. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what's coming up. We won't know until we start training camp to see what was to have a better idea of what the master plan is. But right now, we don't know. We don't know what they're doing. We don't know if they're looking for somebody to replace R.J. Barrett. We don't know if they're looking for. I don't know what they're doing. I don't. So it could very well be Divincenzo is here to replace Emmanuel Quickly.
Yeah. Sean DaCosta, nah. I think they want to re-sign Quickly. He's a big part of what we do. I think they brought Donte in to help with ball handling, allowing Quickly to play more free.
Right. Everybody's a big part of what we do until they trade him. All right. Until they get traded. RJ was a big part of what we do, but they try very hard to get rid of him. Whatever.
Yeah, there's only but so many minutes to go around. But anyway, that's all I have for today. Just a quick pop-up show, audio podcast.
Hit that like button.
Yeah.
One other thing on that last
keep reminding them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Quickly's salary could be the final piece in a big star trade down the line. I think
if they extend him, because right now he's only making $4 million.
Right.
Something like that.
But what I'm saying is I think they're going to extend him, and they're going to extend him for an amount that adds up to, with another player salary in there, one of our other pieces, and that amount is going to equal what these big stars are making, whether it be Embiid or Giannis or what have you. Because what happens is when you get close to that apron, right? Well, I think we're going to operate this year under the apron. But I think next year, the plan is to operate over the apron. And once you're at that apron, deals have to be dollar for dollar, right? And so because of that, I think you've got a player in Quickly who teams want, and he's showing his value. And I think that pay real close attention to the exact dollar figure that Quickly gets as an extension, because I think that if you see that, and it adds up to if you add up what he makes and what Barrett makes, for example, add up to a salary of an Embiid or Giannis, or actually in the case of Embiid, I misspoke, because I think what it is if you're trading for Embiid, if he's the target, Mitchell Robinson is out. So the math would be Mitchell Robinson, which is like $15 million, let's just say, and then you give Quickly an extension for, I don't know what Embiid makes, but let's just call it 23. I don't know. He may not be worth that much, but the idea being that you could package Robinson, Quickly, and whatever draft capital that you have to get Embiid in the door if things fall apart in Philly in 2024. So I think that because what this front office is doing, they've been stockpiling assets this whole time. And Ajay asked the question, what are they doing with all these second round picks, right? You can't even make all those picks, right? And you wouldn't want to make all those picks, right? But you're hoarding assets. You're holding on to these assets because eventually you're going to be sending them out in a trade, ideally for a top 5 player to pair with Jalen Brunson. And so to me, in my mind, I say Quickly is going to be here. And I think Quickly's extension plus Robinson money is going to be the avenue that the Knicks are going to try to use, plus draft picks to get the next big star in the door.
But Jeff, my only problem is if you try to get a top 5 player, you're going to need more than second round picks, man. Like those teams.
But remember, the second round picks aren't necessarily in the big trade either. Remember the CBA that we're moving into. Second round picks are going to become increasingly more valuable for teams that don't want to have to pay 4 years of guaranteed salary to a rookie on a contract scale, right?
Right.
So second round picks are not guaranteed money. And so second round picks in the new CBA for certain teams are going to become valuable currency. You're going to see a lot more teams wanting second round picks because it's going to be a way for a team like the Lakers or the Warriors to add talent that they might otherwise not be able to, because if you're over the tax, you can't add salary. And so a second round pick is a minimum salary player with potential. And so second round picks, and I think, are going to become more valuable in the new CBA. I could be completely wrong about that, Ajay, but the way that my mind works, that's the way that I see it.
You would think so, the way these second round picks are just flying. I'm like, a second round pick, a second round. You'll get a second rounder. You get a second rounder.
Not just the way they're flying around, but the way we're hoarding them. You figure like they know something we don't. Like maybe you're right, Jeff. Maybe this is going to become the gold of the NBA is the second round pick.
And with that in mind, we don't know what the second round picks that we received in the Obi Toppin trade are yet. So let's see which ones they are, because let's just say it's one of the Phoenix ones that in 2027, when Durant is gone and, the Booker may not be anywhere, that pick, if Phoenix bottoms out in that year, that could be a prime, almost first round pick, and the Knicks have targeted picks like that in the past with the Detroit pick and some others. And so, second round picks, but not all second round picks are created equally, is what I'm saying,
Right. I have a question. The Knicks now, because they use the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, are capped, basically hard capped at the first apron. So they have to stay below, I want to say 172 or have 174 million for the rest of this season. They can't go over it. If they were to extend quickly, would that count?
No, because the extension doesn't kick in until next year.
Oh, that's right.
He's still at his salary for this year.
Right. Correct. Thank you for that. And then also, Nick Nation 112 made a good point. Is the poison pill still a part of the new CBA? Does anyone know?
I think it is.
It should be. It doesn't go away. So if we extend IQ, that's going to be a quote unquote poison pill until
you're not going to be able to trade. I don't know if the Knicks want to lock themselves into that.
See, but what would happen is they would extend it before October, and the poison pill would be for this season.
Right.
And then once July 1st hit, which is when we would be making this potential trade, would be setting you up for 2024. So the poison pill would have expired, just like the poison pill on RJ Barrett is now expired. Or am I thinking about that wrong?
No, you're right, because including him in the trade at $4 million, like you're not getting, it's not, the poison pill is not hurting you for this season anyway. Right.
Well, hold on, Queen. Can I plug my channel in real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get out of here. Mm-hmm.
Chat, I just definitely sent the link in. Please subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to get to 500 right now. I think I'm stuck at like 430. Just give me that please push to 500. I appreciate that truly. Delusional Knicks Fan Network. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely support Delusional, and also support this channel, by hitting the like button. and sharing this on you with your social media people, with your friends, with your family. Get everybody around it. Put this thing on TV, man, not on the big screen, not just on your phone. Put it on the big screen and have the whole family watch this thing.
Yeah, we're at 119. Oops. 120. I forgot to hit the like button myself.
Oh my God.
We at 120.
I got 2 accounts running right now watching it, so both like. So hit the like button, everybody.
I appreciate that.
There's an overachiever.
Right.
Guys, those likes, they go a long way, man. Trust me. That's how YouTube recommends this channel. When people, if we have a lot of like, the minute somebody type Knicks or Dope, so if you're looking for it, it'll pop up real quick.
Right. For sure. Ajay, Jeff, Delusional, this was a pop-up show. This show wasn't planned. I just put it out there and you guys agreed to come on. So I really appreciate that. Ajay, actually, because I was going to try to go on last night. I'm glad I didn't make that commitment because it was a hectic evening. And Ajay, first, you going on today? So I appreciate the support. There's no channel without the panel, and I say that a lot, but it's true. This channel grew because guys decided that they was going to rock with me every week. So shout out to you guys. Shout out to Jarrell. Shout out to Tsunami. Shout out to Stafford Don and all of the guests that come through. Once a Dope Soul panelist, always a Dope Soul family member. I appreciate you guys. And shout out to the chat. You guys have been in here strong as of late. Definitely. I mean, all season. Y'all been rocking with me all season, but in the off season, you think people have things to do. This Knicks community is rabid, man. So I do. True and Living said they don't see the link. So if you can put it again. Still Knicks fans. Knicks a nice CAA affiliate. Jarrell, of course. JJ, Sherwin, Shot Powell's. Jarvis LaFleur, who I haven't seen in the chat in a while. Thank you for dropping by. I'm not going to be able to mention everybody. Mike Boy, Geraldine. I don't think Geraldine was in, but shout out to Geraldine McGyver today. Keith Turner.
She was in today.
She was. Okay. Shout out to Geraldine McGyver. The lady and the chef and her mom, Diva Likes. Appreciate you. We're going to have a ladies' night sometime soon. So I'm looking forward to that show.
Queen, a special shout out to Run Still Knicks fan who yesterday he had a great show yesterday. He was doing the show when the Obi Toppin trade dropped, and he was poor Ron. He was trying to make sense out of it. He was trying to mold it and try to explain why this is good, like why 2 second-round picks is good. I'm like, hey, Ron, good try, all right, but whatever. But he did try. I mean, I loved it. I appreciate it. It was such a great show. Yeah, it was funny to watch Ron try to make sense of it in the moment, like in the moment
when it dropped.
You didn't have time to think about it, but you try to make sense of it. It's easier for us.
The emotions are raw there. That's what makes it tough too. Like,
it's easy for us because we had like a whole day to think about it. He didn't have time to think about it.
Right. Shout out to Phil Porter, big Obi Toppin fan, as many of Knicks fans are, who dropped by today. I had to tweet. I wonder how he was doing because I know he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy with that trade. Anyway, we will be back definitely Thursday. If there's any content, I'll be back Tuesday. But definitely I'll be back. I'll be back Thursday. I appreciate you, and shout out again. I was able to see John, the other hand of the other part of the Ron and John of Still Knicks fans. I hadn't seen him in a while. He was there at the Knicks barbecue, first annual cookout up in Coxsackie, New York. Shout out to Simeon, Russell, and MBK. But it was good to see John, and talk to him. Anyway, until next time, peace, fam.
Sister, you one of a kind.
Yes.
Sister, it's time you
That's her.
shine.